Hey guys, what is up and welcome to a new Nvidia daily update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over Nvidia. Let's go over what has happened to the stock, what we can expect moving into the rest of this week rather, maybe even further out, and I'll give you my thoughts on what I see coming up. So yeah, if you enjoy, don't forget to hit that like button. This is not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. And of course, if you enjoy my technical analysis, thoughts, and the charts updates, I do share my thoughts with my members every single day the market is open. We're actually just almost at 600 members. We're, I think, 2 members away from 600. So, hey, one of you could be the 600th member. But yeah, the link is below. Again, it's just $3 a month. Again, I share all my thoughts, post updates with my members every single day as the market is trading constantly for $3, mainly on Tesla stocks, sometimes other stocks. Today I talked about HIMS, Google, I think no, AMD was on Friday, but yeah, so sometimes I'll share those thoughts, or for $5 a month, you get access to everything in that first tier plus Nvidia in the second tier as well, if you're interested. We actually have more members in the second tier than the first tier, which is great. But yeah, let's jump into Nvidia. So Nvidia closing the day down 2%, closing at 108.63. Compared to the market, definitely underperformance off of the Huawei news over the weekend. But, let's figure out what this actually means for the stock and where it can go from here. So I mentioned how, Nvidia is closing at a pretty important spot on Friday, right? This was a very large area of resistance, supply, whatever you want to call it. The point is the fact that RSI was overbought, and, it got into some pretty, if there's a place to reject, it was right there, right? That's what we kept mentioning. It arguably gap filled this gap over here as well on Friday. So again, if there was a place for Nvidia to find a rejection for whatever reason, in this case, it happened to be the Huawei news, it doesn't matter. The point is the fact that that's the spot to do it, if there is a spot to do it, right? And it did, right? It did. And what did it do? It came right back down to the next support zone, right? This thing is just going up and down between supports and resistances very cleanly, I might add, but nonetheless, it's just bouncing and ping-ponging between these key levels, right? Which of course is that 106 roughly level, which is exactly what I told my members about sometime this morning. I'm not going to find the post. I did a lot of posts today. I'm not sure. Actually, this is the morning, so it could be actually pretty close to here. I don't know where it was. I talked about it here. I think it was here. Whatever, I'm sure you trust me. The point is, I did bring it up. I don't know where it is. There was a lot of Tesla posts today because Tesla was obviously, here it is. Nvidia, the first major support already, market moving fastest, 105 to 106 level. I assume needs no explanation, as we've talked about it numerous times the past few weeks. Could see a bounce from here, but I am keeping the option open of a move lower to 102-ish towards that trend line, maybe end of a weekish. And then I also talked about my ideal move for Nvidia. This was also an hour ago. This was back when it was trading like this. You can see still at 107, right? And this is kind of what I expected to do. And this is still what I expected to do, right? Why? Because, we're in again, if I zoom out on the 1 hour here, you can see if I zoom out like this right here, right? Take a look at this, right? The first thing I see when I look at this right here, I don't care about the stuff on the left. All I care about is this right here. What I see here is just the most obvious looking rising triangle pattern, right? It's very nice. This is essentially what SPY is into, right? For the most part. Right, same idea over here. SPY is kind of in the same boat. AMD is pretty much in it, though obviously they are showing a lot more strength than Nvidia. Nvidia is admittedly showing a lot less strength than AMD or just the market. It is definitely lagging behind, but nonetheless, right, it's still in this rising triangle pattern. So what does that mean, right? So obviously after this rejection here, it came right back down to this next level of support, 105, 106, like we've been talking about. So, getting a bounce from here, most likely a weaker bounce, then coming back down. And I'm not 100% sure this will happen, of course, but I'm keeping it open on the table because if there's a place that's a high risk reward type situation for Nvidia to enter a long position, it would be around 102, right? It would be around 102-ish, give or take, of course, right? 102, 103, something like that, right? Because again, that's just where the trend line is, right? That's every single time it's bounced off of this trend line, it's been pretty powerful, right? And then massive bounce, came right back to the trend line, massive bounce, but lower high. Notice how it's a lower high. So I wouldn't be surprised to see another higher low being put here as we continue setting up this rising triangle, right? Where essentially, yeah, this is a lower high, but the point is the fact that it's still getting rejected at pretty much the same rough level, the same rough range, right? Which again is exactly what a rising triangle does. So what I want to see on Nvidia is just something that simple for the most part. I want to see it essentially continue doing something like this, and then I want to see it break out, right? So again, that's why as long as it's below this 111 to 114 supply area or resistance level, I lean on the more bullish or bearish perspective for the reasons I just outlined, right? Now, if it ever breaks it, or if it breaks it prematurely, or something comes out, or some news comes out, or whatever the case may be, if Nvidia ends up breaking past this and going like this, then that's a whole different story. But it hasn't. And until it does, and until it's actually proven otherwise, I will go ahead and continue with the thesis that it's definitely on the weaker side of things than stronger side of things as of right now. Plain and simple, right? So again, all of that just essentially means the fact that bearish below here, while below here, which is why, because I'm bearish, I expect especially with the weakness has been showing relative to, even AMD, continued weakness for the most part, potentially all the way back down to, again, about this kind of 102-ish area, which at that point, if it comes down to 102 roughly, give or take, of course, that's when the risk reward starts getting a little bit more enticing, right? Starts getting a little bit more enticing for me personally. So let's see how it plays out. Let's see how this overall ends up unfolding. You have the 1 hour MACD getting a bearish crossover as well, right? So, the stock just it still looks a little bit on the weaker end of things, right? Absolutely. Now, again, I think this will change. Again, I want to make it very clear. I actually do think Nvidia will get strong again. I do think Nvidia will become bullish, like overall bullish again. It's just not there yet. It's just not there yet, and it needs, at the bare minimum, to essentially break out of this supply zone and turn it back into a demand zone, support zone, for that to start being an actual discussion we can have, right? But until that happens, the discussion is not there yet, and unfortunately, the discussion is still to the downside, right? But again, I do believe that there is a good chance that if it does play out something like this could be that last move to the downside. This could potentially be like a pretty significant bottom, and then we break out, assuming we, of course, continue holding this trend line and assuming we break above this eventually. So that's the way I'll be looking at it more on the 1 hour time frame, right? Hopefully that makes sense. On the daily time frame, it's kind of all over the place still, right? It's about to get potentially turn the market bias back to green or white, I guess, not red, which it did over here, but that obviously didn't mean a whole lot. So again, another reason why it's important to break this 111 to 114 zone, because then that can give us a nice retest closer to 118 to 120, break above that, and it's a whole different ball game. But we're not there yet. One step at a time. I do think eventually it'll get there. Unfortunately, it might take some time, and honestly, it might take until the middle of next month potentially to even figure that out, as it kind of gets tighter in this little range over here, as it kind of trades sideways for the most part, until it finally decides to pick a direction, which, even though I do overall lean bullish, right? Even though I'm short-term bearish, but I think medium-term I'm still bullish, assuming it gets that breakthrough, you can't fully discount the possibility that, what if it just loses this? And what if it just does this instead? That is a possibility. So again, that's why I'm not rushing into Nvidia. I think there's no reason to rush onto Nvidia, personally speaking. I think the stock is not going anywhere anytime soon, regardless. And we have time to wait for these levels to dictate themselves and tell us where the hell the stock actually wants to go and what it actually wants to do. So let's see how that plays out. Let's see what happens. Day by day, week by week, right? So yeah, again, in my opinion, no huge rush just yet until we get like actual good confirmations that the stock is ready to break out, which we don't have yet. I think we will get it, but we don't have it yet. But anyways, jumping into options flow, take a quick look at this. Options flow for Nvidia, a little bit on the more muted side, a little bit of put action coming in over here for June 20th, 100 strike puts. Wouldn't be surprised if that hits. This was bought when Nvidia was at 107, so it's actually higher than that. So we'll see how that actually plays out. But they could be banking on it just coming down to 102. Even that alone could be a pretty good payday for them for sure. But yeah, for the most part, pretty muted. I think most of the attention is on Tesla right now, but let's see how that plays out as well. But yeah, that's kind of what I got for you, ladies and gentlemen. Let me know what you're thinking down below. And again, if you enjoy my thoughts, I share my thoughts with my members every day in my YouTube membership. We're almost at 600 members, so you could be the 600th member. That'd be pretty cool, I think. Hopefully, I don't know, whatever. Anyways, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.